we landed. I just remember my boss coming over and being like, it's like, if anything would have went wrong, you would be in freaking jail, basically. I'm like, but it didn't. He's like, yeah, that's right. Go write everyone else up for an award and yourself up for basically reprimand.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm looking at the flight lead. He's like, well, that's pretty much your job. It's like, you're cannon fodder.
This podcast was brought to you by Outsider. Check us out at www.outsider.com. Outsider is an outdoor lifestyle brand owned and operated by me, retired Navy SEAL Sam Mackey, and my dear friend and former NFL quarterback Jay Cutler. At Outsider, we encourage everyone to get outside and enjoy all that life has to offer. Head over to outsider.com to check out our unique patent-pending drinkware. Outsider's drinkware can be customized with your personal or business logo. Go to outsider.com, upload your logo, and we will send you visual proofs and great wholesale pricing. And don't forget, get outside and enjoy all that life has to offer. Welcome back to the Take It Outside podcast, where we talk all things outdoors and just getting outside where life happens. I'm your host, and as always, my co-host, Jay Cutler, but he cannot be here today. He has some family issues that he's dealing with. But today, we're joined by Tyler Merritt, founder and CEO of Nine Line Apparel. He's a former Army Apache pilot who built one of the most this is a tough word to say, recognizable patriotic brands in the country, starting in his garage and growing into a national name. Tyler, I appreciate you coming on, my man.
Hey, thank you so much for being on. I know this has been a long time coming.
Yeah.
So I know we both have those schedule conflicts, but glad to make it happen.
Life gets busy. That's a fact. But I appreciate you. So I just would like to start from the beginning. Did you come from a military family? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, my parents were pretty much military, but like hippies. So like military hippies. So complete opposite. I think it skips a generation. So my grandfather, both grandparents were Marines. Okay. And my father's side, he stormed the beaches of Iwo Jima at the ripe old age of 17. Got shot in the kneecap and the helmet. Stormed the beaches and spent his birthday, turned 18 in Iwo Jima.
Really?
Came home, and he was a big inspiration in my life. He'd take me to West Point, or not. He wouldn't take me. He'd go to West Point with all of his friends. That was their tradition. And he died at a young age. But I kind of always had that passion, desire to join the military because of him and the things I learned. And my brother joined a little bit before me. 9/11 happened. I was leaving wrestling practice, and I saw some planes hit the World Trade Center, and it kind of pissed me off, just like every other red-blooded American, and decided to go down this path of good old Army.
There you go. So your dad was your grandpa was 17 when he joined. Have you talked to him about the process? Like, what was the age limit? Was it 18 back then, or was it 17 with the parents' waiver?
So one of our bigger initiatives here is giving back to the Veteran Society and to make sure people don't fall into those pitfalls that say my grandfather fell into. He never talked about anything. I didn't know about any of these things until I got to go read about after he passed. Okay. Right. So he was a guy who, him and my other grandfather on my mother's side, they never spoke but 2 or 3 words. They drank a lot. Yep. When they get together and drink a lot, then they would speak together. But he didn't really talk about it. And I think that's what a lot of our friends that have gone down that path of isolationism, and gone down the darker paths, that's what we're trying to fix. But I didn't know anything about his accolades, his awards, until after he passed.
So I have a question for you, because this is a story you hear that often. It's pretty common how the older generation just never ever spoke about it. And now I think we're turning that on its head a little bit, right? For the most part. But my question is, do you think the war was just harder and different and it locked people up? Or do you think it was more of a societal pressure that kept them quiet?
I took a group of World War II vets with an organization, to Normandy last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was the 80th anniversary, and so we did the same thing, taking a group of guys to Pearl Harbor for the 80th anniversary. And got the fortunate pleasure to fly these guys over. It was very comical because we were able to borrow some Gulfstreams and fly them in style.
There you go.
And I remember being their flight attendant. I guess some 160th buddy pilots were flying up front, and we gave them nice seats. I slept on the floor of a Gulfstream, but I remember going up to these guys and being like, "Hey, I'm your flight attendant. Can I get you something to drink, like some juice or milk or Pedialyte?" They're like, "We want Fireball or whiskey." Right? Like, these are guys who are 104 years old who've either jumped. Some of these guys are jumping in for D-Day. Some of these guys were the second, third wave, and storming the beaches, and they really didn't talk about it amongst their family until they got together, right? And then when they get together, it's this sense of closure, and we're walking around the beaches. And I remember being on the beachhead, with some buddies who lost their legs in our war, right? And our idea was bridging the gap, bringing some GWAT guys to meet with some World War II guys, and just allow us to bridge that gap. And I'd say what we went through was war as hell, right? And every war is hell. They went through an extra special hell. Yeah. These are guys who, I remember one of the guys talking about, everyone gives credit to the guys storming the beaches in the first wave, at high tide. He stormed the beaches at low tide. He had like an extra 150 meters of, overwhelming intersecting fires to kind of storm through. And he was talking about losing thousands of people on day one and day two and day three. And I think by day four, they had already lost the same equivalent of what we lost in all of Iraq and all of Afghanistan together. And these are guys this is their first week, right? Yeah. Where their unit, by 2 weeks down the road, was all new, right? Like, most of these guys were very, very fortunate to be able to survive that initial invasion. And then they didn't go home in mid-tour. They didn't go home after a year or 12 months or 13 months. And I remember having stop loss and having people reach out to their congressman about how unfair and unjust it was, and have to respond to Congress like, "We're at stop loss. I really need these guys." 2006, 7, 8. We really need the humans. But these guys they signed up knowing that they're signing up until the war's over. That could be 1 year. It could be 2. And in some of these guys' cases, one of these guys, he stormed the beaches, got towards near the end of the war, and they got a little lackadaisical. And he talked about, about a year before the war ended, he got captured by some German soldiers. This is a Jewish soldier, right? Who then spent his last year as a prisoner of war in a German concentration camp. So he was there for like 5-6 years, and the last years as a POW. And when I'd ask him, like, what was your biggest fear? And this guy told me, they call him Radish. His nickname is Radish. Radish looked at us and said, in front of a bunch of children he was kind of telling these stories to, my biggest fear is that my mother thought I was dead, and that tore at me every day, that she thought I was dead and I wasn't able to go home to her before she died, so that she knew that I wasn't, dead. And that's where I go, and I try to put myself back there and say, I don't know if I would sign up for a war that had no end. I don't know, if I could be in this. I would hope that I would, right? But I'm there with some guys who did some very serious things in our, global war on terror. Some guys who, did some of the top tier type missions, crazy stuff. And none of our stories compared to these guys' stories. So either they've gotten really good at embellishing, or, war has gotten a little bit more, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way, like, because people still lose limbs and people still die, but it's not the same as that world war that they were going through. And it was a different mentality when you say, I'm signing up, I might be home in 4, 5, 6 years, and I might not talk to you for 6, 7 months, right? Like, it's just a whole different mentality. And I don't know if I went back in time that I would have that moral fortitude to do that. I would hope I would, but that's a whole different breed of animal.
What do you think makes it easier now, the timelines or the connectivity that we have with loved ones back home, or just an all-encompassing, that makes it all easier, I would say, huh?
I would say so. Like, again, I'm pretty good at giving advice for, say, like business or military. Relationship advice, not my strong suit, right? So, like, definitely divorced. Love my ex-wife, love my kids, but we would joke around because I'm in charge of the deployment matrix, and I was probably one of the most deployed people in my unit. We're a very well deployed unit in the 160th. But it would come, I'd be home just long enough for my wife to be like, when are you going again? And I'd be gone just long enough for her to like miss me. So it was this constant honeymoon of just like, I'd be gone for 6 months, come home for 6 months. And I think we just got used to those deployments, and there was so much connectivity, in the beginning, not so much. I'd leave for a year and I'd come back and kids are like a foot taller. That would suck. But towards the end of my career, at least, I had my own Iridium. I had much better connectivity. It wasn't that bad. It was like, Dad's at work, right? I'm just gone for a couple of months. So I think we got really used to that, and it wasn't as bad. But I could not imagine leaving my children and saying, I might be home in a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, and I'll try to write you a letter every once in a blue moon, right? It's just the connectivity, the fact that we take mid tours, the fact that we're not really deploying for greater than a year. I think it's a much better type of warfare if we're going to be engaged in warfare. And I hope, with everything in my being, that we never return to those type of World War global conflicts, because I would be a little bit terrified about how much our recruitment might go down slightly.
Yeah. I think about this often, and I don't know if I could do it with kids, right? But I also believe, war is a young man's game, right? And when I did the majority of my deploying, I didn't have kids. I didn't have kids till later on in life when I was 30, right? And but I don't know if I could, step up and go fight a war right now for years. I think I could. I mean, I'd like to think that I could, when I was 19 or 20, just because I was, my mentality back then, I'm not going to say I was brainwashed, but I was definitely just live, eat, and breathe the teams, right? And if they asked that of me, I probably, would have gone and sacrificed my life here, in the United States. But it's just overall a very interesting, hard concept to even fathom.
If I look at our current generation and the niceties that people have got accustomed to, look at what happened during COVID, right? People lost their mind and are fighting over toilet paper. We're fighting over some of the most nonsensical things in the world, and we lose power for a day, or in the South, if we have a small snowstorm for a day, people get so used to the customs and the niceties that we have, running water, electricity everywhere, internet connectivity. I think people really have to understand that if things go not nicely with some other world powers, our internet goes away. Like, our power goes away. Like, as someone who's gone to Ukraine several times and had to deal with Russian dickheads, I guess I'm allowed to curse.
It's the internet. You can say whatever you want.
It's the internet. So if we didn't have Elon Musk providing Starlink systems, if we didn't have what I like to refer to him as, that modern day Iron Man, who has the ability to say, fuck it, I can fix internet connectivity in that war-torn country and make sure that, Russia does not win. It would be a whole different environment there, right? Like, we do rely on these electricity and the internet connectivity, almost an over-reliance. It's one of the reasons I really enjoyed my unit, right? Like, I went from flying Apaches, which was a flying freaking tank, right? Like, flying around Iraq, Afghanistan, like, I was mostly Apaches. I was actually Apaches in Iraq. It was just not fair, right? You got guys digging a hole, have no idea, I'm like several kilometers away, or like just doing silly stuff. And the next thing you know, they're doing triple backflips. But I went from that to this special operations group. So I'm thinking it's going to be even swoopier, right? Like 30 millimeter follows my eyeball everywhere, and weapons ballistic calculations is so cool. And I show up and I go to relearn how to fly the way that they do. And I'm like, hop in this Alpha Lima model, freaking no moving maps, just like steam gauges. I'm like, where's your cool shit? They're like, well, guess what happens if like an EMP goes off? Like, we need to do old school. Like, the training there is you start off with, all right, you still need to hit plus or minus 30 seconds and hit this target that's 100 kilometers away at night while navigating with a compass, a clock, and a map, not a moving map, like a map, like a legit, and like a little thumb light, right? Like the old has to become new again. And I think people who get super reliant on our luxuries and are super reliant on technology, it really will kick our butt in the future. And then not just war, right? I see it now. I'm walking around here with some of my friends in another country, and they're relying on their phone to try to like navigate. I'm like, hey guys, if you watch the sun go up and down, like east, west, like, do you have any idea where we are? But like civilians, even a lot of military guys, like we just get so lost in technology and so reliant in technology that I'm a little bit scared for somewhat in the future if those things just go away. What type of anarchy would ensue?
People are very reliant on it. And, when what you mentioned about flying is exactly how we dive in the SEAL teams. You just have a G-Shock and a compass, and you have your kick count. Like I know, for 100 yards, I forget, I think it was like 47 kicks. I could be wrong. And I haven't dove in a while. And you're just under there counting your kicks. And okay, 100 yards takes me 3 minutes. And in 3 minutes, so I'm going to swim this bearing for 27 minutes. And then I got to make a right-hand turn for, 18 minutes and a left-hand turn. And it's pitch dark underwater. Then all of a sudden you look up, and you see the stern of the ship that you're, trying to attack. And it's pretty amazing when you get there with the, the old school tactics, if you will. And I was always wondering, I'm like, don't we have like little bubblegum buoys we could float to get a GPS signal to tell us where we're at? Like what the hell? We're really using a G-Shock and a compass that you have to bury your face in. But, they came out with all sorts of other, diving navigation systems, but they were finicky. You're underwater. There's no signal, right? And nothing worked better than just a compass and a good map study, right? Or reading your charts and planning your dive and then diving your plan. It's the best way. I've worked with 160th a little bit in my career, and one thing that just blew my mind was I was able to be a part of a flight lead, and I forget what platform it was flight leads for. I think it was multiple different platforms, and we were just the actions on unit, right? During this exercise, the amount of planning and how quickly, especially for TSTs or time sensitive targets, how quickly you guys can plan and go out the door is amazing in your level of planning. It was the big rock drill. I was in a hangar, and they had, the whole hangar was mapped out, the different targets. Could you talk me through a little bit out on the back end? Because I was just the assault team lead, so I was just in there, and I just had a very small portion. Hey, you're dropping us off here. I'm do actions on. I'll be in contact on this freak, and then picked up here, right? But my question is, from the student, but I'm going to say the student perspective, even though you're not really a student because you're in the unit, to that flight lead training. What's the preparation of that before you get to that hot seat, if you will?
Yeah, so you go from basic mission qualified, the fucking new guy, FNG, to if you last in the organization, you evolve to become an FMQ or an air mission commander. That's kind of as a real live officer, a commissioned officer. I'm aiming to become really that air mission commander in charge of the. If anything goes wrong, it's my fault.
Yep.
If everything goes right, write awards for everyone else. Yep. Like that's the whole mentality, and I'll still probably be in trouble, which has definitely happened to me in the past. And then that flight leader, he's that pure technical expert. He's the guy when you sit down with some of these crusty, and they're like my really good friends now. Like in the beginning, I was just like the PL that they're like, hey, sir, what do you think? And I tell them like, we should do this. And they'd be like, cool, that'll get us all fucking killed. So like, this is what we're going to do. Right. And like, I'm signing off on the risk assessments, and I'm signing off on a lot more things at the level of a captain that in the big army would be like 1-2 star generals. Right. So it's we delegate down to the lowest level, and those flight lead rides are absolutely no joke. You're talking about guys who've been in the unit for 5-6 years that have been put through the ringer. And it's not one of those, like, you don't go out on a leisurely flight to go fly around in Savannah, Georgia or Fort Campbell. Like, every time you go out, there's always a mission that you're essentially planning for. And there's always contingencies that your instructor pilot is always, so it's not like leisure flights. Mm-hmm. It's every time we go out, it's going to be some type of training opportunity, we call them. Mm-hmm. But this RMT that you're talking about, you're talking about tens of millions of dollars to test one person.
Yep.
You're talking about downtown Miami or like New York City or, Salt Lake, like the major RMTs, realistic military training, where we'll take DIA, CIA, SEAL teams, CAG, like all these guys come together because we're paying for it, right? Like, they're going to have some really amazing training. I'll do these trainings. I think for my, assessment trainings to become signed off as AMC. We're in Abu Dhabi. I don't know how much they say, but like, I've got 2 different teams, like one from the SEAL groups, one from the SF groups. I'm like, vessel board search and seizure off the coast of freaking Abu Dhabi. And then I'm going and hitting these, doing real world live fire training exercises elsewhere. And like, that's just for like a low level test, right? Like, that was just like a Tuesday. When you go out with these guys for a flight read, they're not sleeping for 2-3 days, like legit. Like, they're just getting a quick nap. And the idea is, if we gave you 24 hours to plan, you'll spend 24 hours planning. Yep. If we gave you 2 minutes to plan, well, you've been training your whole life. You have 2 minutes, get the fuck out the door, go hit the target, and we're going to do it on the fly. But that was the mentality. It's not like in the big army, I'd be like, oh, we're going to go test and train, and then we're going to go fuck around for a little bit. And, whatever. Flying Apache is a little bit different. I just did left-hand turns and threw away most of the packet they gave me. I just need, call signs and bad guy, good guy stuff. Yep. But the person who'd hand me the packet, that's the guy planning the mission. That was us, right? Like, so we controlled the whole stack. So you control the Air Force, you control the Navy, you control pretty much the entire air aspect. And, that person has to be the most proficient in the technical aspect, but also, navigating the somewhat politics of the military. Because we show up in a airfield in a foreign country, and you get a 1-star Air Force general telling us, I'm in charge here. I'm like, no, you're not. You can call your boss, get really fucking mad, but like, I'm taking all your aircraft, I'm doing this, and like, you can't be involved in this. Get the fuck out. But you have to do it in a nice way that doesn't piss people off and just is focused solely on getting the mission done. So it's not just technical experts. You really need that calm, cool, collected person that, we had this great plan, and then that aircraft went down, and this person got injured, and then this big shocker, the refuel tanker never showed up, and Air Force, left us out to dry. No offense. No, they're not all like that, but I swear to God, like, for just dozens of missions, it was just like hose us with fuel. And I really need fuel. So like, these guys are just incredible planners, incredible, like, emotionally intelligent human beings. And you need both to kind of be signed off as being that flight lead. And those are the guys who they make the decisions. The senior officers signing off and stuff. I'm going to be talking for a little bit and assuming the risks. I'm kind of like the scapegoat if everything goes bad. But those are the ones who are like getting all the hard questions. And they've proven themselves to be the most calm, cool, collected individuals in the most insanely complicated situations, off no sleep, off very little, rest and relaxation. So it's who you want around when everything goes to shit.
Those guys, my experience, those guys were absolutely amazing. The guys that were going and trying to get their flight lead, being tested out. And because I would sit in there as a senior enlisted guy for my platoon and for the mission planning for these TSTs. Well, it goes right up to, our planning went right up to like, hey, we're loading the aircraft in 10 minutes. right? And then I have to turn and I have to go brief, all of my guys exactly what's going on. So it was actually a great drill for us as well, because I'm coming out with all this information. Now I have to tell everyone to get ready and get on the bird and explain what we're doing as we're moving. And it was a great drill for, the ground force as well. And of course, I'm listening to the fires net, and you guys are just these guys are just throwing absolutely every contingency, so then I'm listening, I'm like, well, that doesn't really affect us. They're in a tick 30 kilometers north, and, they have X, Y, and Z happening, and then they're yo-yoing back and forth. And it was one of the coolest training experiences that I had in the military, was doing that flight lead or just being a part of the ground force.
What I get to learn, like it's probably second or third deployment with those guys in Iraq. I learned that if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And at every contingency that we plan for, and we'll sit there and plan like, all right, mid-flight, this happens. Yep. Post-flight, this happens. This on, RPM bound, just every different type of scenario is thrown at you, and you think you've won and gone through them all. And then like that curveball comes in, and like we do no comms for a reason, right? We don't like to push out signals. It used to piss me off as flying Apaches, these like black helicopters just swooping underneath me. They're not talking to anyone on CTAF. They're just, they're too cool for school. But now I understand, right? Like there's a level of secrecy, there's a level of understanding of what people can intercept, especially our friends in China. And why, we have certain TTPs that I 100% will not be talking about here. I don't like going to jail. Yeah. But, I remember one specific fun mission, and my favorite flight lead, I want to say his last name, it was called Dino. And he was one of my favorite human beings. Still is alive, not was, for like just to fly with, right? He's always calm, cool, collected. And I remember being on a mission out of, working with the Delta boys. And we had a last minute kind of, you guys don't do the vehicle interdictions really as much as, I don't think you guys do. But it's not really your mission set.
Yeah.
So like they're also not really doing vessel board search and seizures as much.
Exactly.
So it's like, it's different mission sets, right? So like supposed to be doing this, kind of stopping guys in a car, without going into too much detail. But there's a stack you're supposed to have, right? It's supposed to be like, hey, we got some rotary wing, then rotary wing cast, then fixed wing cast, then, pred, then refuel, right? And I just remember as we're like tracking this guy, we had no time to plan, just popped up, hop in an aircraft, we're going. And like on the AMC, it's my first time as AMC and talking with the flight lead. And all of a sudden, like rotary wing cast couldn't, like malfunction, couldn't come. Then we lost our pred. And then all of a sudden I lost, the sun started coming up. So every Air Force problem came out. They're like, oh, the sun came out, and all of a sudden I can't fly anymore. So like we are at like for a go, no go criteria.
That's exactly where my mind went. Like, where did you set your no go criteria with assets?
It was way past it. Like when there's a lot of other situations and there's some like good idea planning. I call it good idea fairy on the fly. That was proposed to me. And so while my commander at the time is just screaming in the radio that I'm pretty sure we just pulled. He's not my friend, but just like, fix it. And we're just talking internally, talking to the ground force guys, like, dude, this is pretty simple. Like, why don't we just fly down the checkpoint before they get into Baghdad? And their idea was, let's just rip out the Iraqi checkpoint dudes, hogtie them, take their uniform. And then when the guy comes up, instead of doing a VI, we'll just, smoke the driver and pull him out and bag him. And I was like, that's a fucking awesome idea. I love that. They're going to love it when I get back. And I remember dropping these dudes off. They hogtied the fucking Iraqi police, put their uniforms on, did their thing. Next thing I know, there's a dude with a hood in the back of my aircraft with my massive crew chief just sitting on him. And, we take him to 5 weeks, and it's like right in Baghdad, drop him off. And then, I'm sitting there drinking some Irish coffees. I didn't really realize we're just straight up fucking liquor. So I didn't end up flying home. I was a passenger at that point, accidental drinking. I think I'm allowed to say it now. And we landed. I just remember my boss coming over and being like, it's like, if anything would have went wrong, you would be in freaking jail, basically. I'm like, but it didn't? He's like, yeah, that's right. Go write everyone else up for an award and yourself up for basically reprimand.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the flight lead. He's like, well, that's pretty much your job. It's like, you're cannon fodder. If, but he's an awesome guy, kind of stuck up for what we did. It made sense. But, sometimes you have those bosses who are like, I remember the same trip. I'm not gonna say his name. I don't want to get yelled at because I'm so friendly. He's probably figuring out who I'm talking about. But this one colonel is always like, where are you now? I'm like, sir, I'm like 10 minutes out. Where are you now? I'm like 2 minutes out. I'm like, where are you now? I was like, sir, you not hear the SATCOM calls I'm making the ground force? Like, he said, I want my own calls. I'm like, okay. You know how fucking distracting that is? Like, I'm RPM bound, like in the cloud. I'm landed. He's like just making me constantly give him just asinine updates. So I'm just pull the pin. Like, lost radio communication again. Weird.
Do you guys put BFTs on board?
You have different leadership tactics,
okay.
right? Some of my best commanders really did delegate down to the lowest level. They allowed you to make mistakes one time, as long as they weren't catastrophic or loss of life type things. But then you had some that were just like, how micromanagement can you be, right? The ones that I knew I never wanted to aspire to be. So I got the, I think military, you get that leadership. It's like, man, I hope if I'm in charge, I am never like that fucking guy. Good qualities, right? But like that micromanagement aspect would drive me nuts. They're still out there PTing with you. They're still out there very proficient, but like, let me fucking do my job. Leave me alone. And then you had some guys who were just, very, very hands off, like to the point where I'm like, can you give me some advice? Like I need a little bit of direction. But I prefer that side, right? And that's the way I built my company. I'm halfway across the world and I keep on calling back. I'm like, do you guys need me to come back? Like, I work on my computer. I can work pretty much anywhere. They're like, you're good, right? And that's what we aspire to be. Like, I want to come to a unit where I add value, where I'm basically trying to work myself out of a job. Like, how can I empower, my subordinate leaders to do things without me having to sign off on everything, right? And I'm going to give them more and more and more control and authority and permissions, as they earn it. And I think that's the only way we can make successful military organizations. The only way we can make successful business organizations is if you can work yourself out of a job, if you bring value to the organization while you're there, but it will survive when you're gone.
This episode is brought to you by Alpine Optics. If you spend time in the outdoors, whether you're hunting, hiking, bird watching, or just taking in the view, good optics could make all the difference. Alpine builds binoculars and scopes that are clear, dependable, and made to handle real use in the field. Their image stabilizing binoculars are a favorite of mine. Even if you're glassing offhand or on the move, the view stays steady and sharp. It makes long sessions easier on your eyes and helps you watch things you'd otherwise miss. Whether you're spotting game or you just want to see the world a little clearer, Alpine's gear is built to bring the outdoors into focus. Check them out at alpineoptics.com. Whether you're trekking in the backcountry, bird hunting, or just chasing squirrels in the backyard, your dog needs fuel that can keep up with the adventure. And that's where Montana Dog Food comes in. Born in the heart of Big Sky Country, this isn't just dog food. It's adventure-grade nutrition. Crafted with responsibly sourced ingredients from the Western U.S. and freeze-dried to lock in every ounce of goodness, Montana Dog Food Company delivers clean, powerful fuel for your pup's wild side. No shortcuts, no synthetic junk, just premium, nutrition-packed meals and treats designed to support strong muscles, healthy joints, and endless energy, whether you're trekking trails or snuggling by the fire. So give your dog the food that fuels their adventurous spirit. Go to montanadogfoodco.com and feed your dog the best. I completely agree. That leader you spoke of, the micromanaging one, I've tried to peel back the onion on that personality quite a bit over time. And because I had an instructor role one time and I would see, every type of leader come through. And what I found more often than that is the micromanager doesn't understand the operation holistically and or doesn't understand the major muscle movements, but they understand the minute details. And those are the things that they will just laser focus on and try to micromanage what they know because they feel they can give advice in that, realm, vice the person that understands the battlefield, holistically and the commander's intent typically is a person that micromanages less. Have you seen a correlation between that at all?
I think I'll be honest. I will micromanage the crap as I need to, but it's a form of leadership. It's my last form. Actually, second to last. Then it's coercive.
Yep.
Then it's I will put you in freaking jail if you don't do these things, right? And that's always your last form. And it's such a short-lived form. It's where I'm at the point where I'm looking to replace you or literally put you in jail. I can't do that in the civilian world. I'm like, hey, if I'm doing your job, one of us is not needed and I'm not going anywhere. But it's usually past experiences, right? So the commander I was talking about in the 160th, we deploy as kind of flights and crew. So like sometimes I'll fall into a battalion commander who's not my battalion commander, right? They don't know me. They don't trust me. I got to the unit very young. Like I went straight from West Point to flight school, straight to a deploying unit for a year. And I applied while I was deployed and I came straight back and I went right to the Green Platoon. So like I was the first in my class to go into the unit and I was very young. That micromanagement I found is coming from a lack of trust or someone's, they default to lacking trust until it's earned. Or, someone has proven themselves to not be intelligent enough, to not work hard enough. And then it's that form. I had one soldier I remember who would I'd find like a wrench in my tail rotor in Apache. And like, I had to go and be like, hey, we're going to have these foam cutouts for your toolbox, right? Like, and you're going to show me your toolbox before and after. Like, you're not losing tool because you don't fly with me. Like I just have to find it. Same guy who I'm like, we're going to play this game called, we're going to label your boots and your uniform. And you're going to be wearing on Mondays, you're going to be wearing number ones. And because you just smell, right? Like it was the worst form of leadership, but this is stop loss time. This is a guy I can't fire, right? This is one who's actually not supposed to be in the organization anymore. Like we just needed a warm body. So like there's a time and a place to micromanage. Some people default to it until you earn it. That's the individual I'm talking about. He just didn't trust me. And that's why we had that conversation. I had to, wait till everyone's gone and be like, sir, can we speak? I need to do my job. Like you're going to get us hurt and killed because I can't be focused on telling you asinine shit while I'm already making those same calls. Like you're distracting me and I can't be distracted in a dust cloud with bad guys around, right? Dropping humans off on shitty areas. So like that's where we kind of came to Jesus, and he was like a wrestler, a boxer, kind of like me. So like where I was like, hey, or we could just go fight. Like fuck it, like I just fight you because you're pissing me off. And like I think people respect that at some point when you just pull them aside, not in front of other humans. Right? Like you got to go in their office, stand at attention, like, can I speak freely? Sometimes it doesn't do well. Like I've gotten reprimanded. I got injured, ended up going to West Point to be a faculty member, and my first female African-American boss, which I have no problems with either of those things. I just never in an organization like that, just kept pushing my buttons and messing with my family and asked me over and over in front of a crowd what I thought of her. I was like, we'll talk in private. We'll talk in private. She just kept on pushing. I lost my composure. I was like, well, you're a fucking cunt. That's what I think. And that didn't work well, right? Like that's where I was already medically retiring. I didn't really care. This was my first letter of reprimand, but I'd ACOS my whole career, but like everyone around, like all the other captains, majors who have a career ahead of them, like I said what they all wished they could say, right? Like you were just to see you next Tuesday, not for anything, just because you choose to be. You're just a horrible leader, and you're detrimental. The guys you can see on their ORB, they've held a job for like 15 days here and 30 days here. Like it looks on paper in the civilian world like this guy's held 90 jobs, like because no one likes him and he's horrible, right? I had platoon leader. And then in the big army, and then platoon leader in the 160th. And that was like 10 years, right? So I had like 2 jobs and I loved it. I would have kept doing it.
How many years did you end up staying in the Army? You said you got medically retired. Many? Yeah. How many years were you in? I
was in 11 years.
Okay. So and what year did you graduate West Point?
2006. And I graduated 2006, went straight to flight school, ended up leaving 2017.
And the reason I ask is I just wanted to get your perspective on, as you get more senior in the military, you get to look up I'm going to say the monster skirt, and you see all this, all the bureaucracy that happens, right? And for me, towards the end of my career, my fun meter was just pegged. I'm like, hey, if we want to be, this efficient as we, advertise, and we're the lumbering dinosaur of acquisition when it comes to new gear, new tech. Like, what the hell are we doing? And then it's just people, playing the politics game and jockeying for position, right? And then to your point, when you're on your twilight tour or, you have your retirement orders already, this, you feel the freedom start to creep in. Like, hey, I'm out of here no matter what, right? And so I can give you my honest opinion, where most folks can't, because you're going to get offended, and it could, affect their, eval or their fit rep in their next duty station. So they're just going to eat this shit sandwich for their family, right? And I was just wondering.
I was a little bit different as, General Caslin. I took a leave at West Point to go on Fox Business, right? I never told anyone I was building a business, right? While everyone else was watching movies and doing silly things, I'm writing code and building websites. And, I just like those things. I was always big into tech, and I was big into manufacturing. So it was my hobby, right? And then when my hobby started making some legitimate money and started growing and scaling, I got asked to go on Fox Business the first time with Stuart Varney. I was still active duty. I was in the middle of, my medical retirement. And I remember taking leave so I didn't get in trouble. I did Fox Business segment, told no one. I always told no one. I like secrets, right? Good at them. And I came back and worked, and General Caslin was my boss. He's like, hey, Tyler, how was Fox Business? Or I think it was this colonel who was in charge. I'm like, oh, you watch Fox? It was good. He's like, you forgot to tell me about something. I was like, oh, my bad. This is why I speak freely, because I don't really care. Like, I can leave and go run this thing, but I enjoyed the military. I would have stayed flying forever if I could have. Just there's a point where your family takes your focus, and I wanted to focus on my family at the time. I think it was already a little too broken at that point, because obviously I'm not married at this point, but I've got a great relationship, I believe, now with my wife and kids, and but I'll go back full circle to why. Like, I do a crap ton of therapy. Like, I'm constantly trying to work on myself. Good at business. I feel like I was pretty good at being a pilot and commander. I just was really bad at the other stuff, and being able to communicate things, and coming back from crappy deployments where you're flying from Afghan to Germany, and there's no place to sleep but in between two caskets. Like, that's sad. And you stay up all night, and your friends get into fights in bullseye, and then you have to talk to commanders. It's a very shortened version of a real story. Then you come home, and you go to have dinner with your family, but they're so used to you being gone. They're like, I'd show up, I'd go to the house, and the house is locked. They're on vacation. They don't even know I'm home. Not to break my own window, and you'll drive to see them in Charleston, and their wife's like, how was your work trip? You're like, oh, it was wonderful. But in really, you just sit in a chair and just drink liquor all night, and don't want to talk to anyone. So I feel like therapy is a big thing. Like, I did therapy earlier this week in video. I've got 3 therapists. I'm not even ashamed. Like, one for talk to my wife. I don't know how to do that, to her ex-wife. One for my kids, and one just for me, just to be like, who else can I talk to? My employees, my 2 friends.
Has talk therapy been the best for you, or what type of therapy have you gotten the most out of?
There's different therapies. I've done physical therapy a lot. I've gone down to Columbia doing bio accelerator. My friend Chad Robenshaw, I did some silly stuff with him in Ukraine. Super nice guy. I should give people my phone number.
Don't worry about it.
But it's been the physical therapy and rehabilitative stuff, and cognitive rehabilitation, super important. I highly recommend everyone do it.
What have you done for cognitive rehabilitation?
I just mean therapy.
Okay.
I just mean different types of therapy.
Okay, got it. I'm looking at going to Mexico at the end of the year and doing one of the holistic medicine retreats.
Ayahuascas.
Yeah. Have you done that before?
I have a lot of fun. I mean, my friend JT from Black Rifle, he rants and raves about it. He was trying to convince me to go down there. I just haven't gotten around to licking toads. I mean, it sounds awesome. Not to bring it down. Just, I don't know if I have time to go down that rabbit hole. And I'm also a little scared. To be honest.
I'm very scared.
I've heard it was an intense experience.
I just got home from Montana last night, and my wife and I were in the airport. Actually, it's 2 weeks ago when we were in South Dakota, and we were talking about it. And that's my number one concern is I am personally just very scared. Like what is it going to unlock? What has my my mind suppressed over the years? And to open up Pandora's box is something that makes me very uneasy, for sure.
I'm open to just about anything. And I hear nothing but great things.
Yeah.
But for me, it's hard to find time to take away. This is the first vacation I can think I've actually taken in about 20 years, which is kind of
really
funny. I've done nothing for this last week except for this interview because I got reminded like 90 times that I missed the last one. So I actually came here early just so I could be settled in a hotel room. So I traveled for about 12 hours yesterday just to get settled in a hotel room. I got a couple hour nap and now I'm talking with you.
Well, I appreciate it. So, when did you start Nine Line? What was the intent behind it? How did you come up with the idea? I'd like to get into Nine Line now.
So when I was active duty, I was always looking for that side hustle. I've been doing real estate, flipping houses, fix them up. I got into building an app called Rental Negotiator, which was to kind of allow people in and around military towns to negotiate with tenants, still have tenants to rent, rate renters and renters to rate tenants. Work with some really interesting people in the tech field. Learned how people will take my ideas and just steal them. And decided to stop trying to go against giants and start, at some niche, what I consider more niche opportunities. And around that time, I went to the unit. And I went from being an Apache Air Mission Commander to the FNG, and which meant I was the fridge bitch and the T-shirt guy, right? So I kept the fridge full of beer for a bar, which I don't know if they're still allowed to have those. And I was the T-shirt guy. So I had to learn about T-shirt manufacturing. I didn't like the materials we were using. I didn't like the fact that everything was made overseas. I wanted to see if I could do it myself. So I started, dabbling, bought machinery. Put it in my garage. My wife at the time, was very supportive and helped with that initiative. And it really just kept on growing. I started doing it for my organization. I started doing it for Ranger Battalion, SF groups. But again, like none of the products, the raw materials like Gildan or Hanes, like just didn't resonate with me, didn't mean anything. So I set off to look into cut and sew operations, making sure that we were using sustainable products, not doing anything really. I've moved pretty much everything away from China. There's nothing that does any type of indentured or forced labor actions. And really just, it was one of those things where I never really thought I'd get into t-shirts, never thought I'd partner with, guys at Black Rifle and start building these coffee shops. Just one thing led to another. It just kept on growing and growing and growing. And soon my side hustle became my, couldn't really ignore it as a main hustle. By the time I left the Army, I had about 100 employees, secretively. And then, fast forward now, we get about 300, we'll have 10 shops by the end of the year. I partner with a company out of California called Bella Canvas. They also own ALO. It's a big yoga group. And they're really focused on U.S. manufacturing in South and Central America. So I visit the factories, make sure that everything is up to code and beyond code. And I think we're at the precipice of where people start to actually care, not like say they care and then buy a bunch of Nike stuff and a bunch of stuff from Shein made by slaves. But I think they're starting to actually care where stuff comes from, just like where we put the food in our bodies, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't put chemicals in our kids. I'm out here in, Greece, and like everything is just incredibly fresh and incredibly amazing. And I feel awesome after eating it. I'm like, why does our food taste different? Right? People are starting to care what you wear and what you put in your body. And I just think we're a little bit of ahead of our time, focused on U.S. manufacturing when no one else was. And now, I've got some decent government contracts. I got some decent other, contracts that are a little more confidential. I can't share. But we built a nice reputation within the community. And I'm a very handshake person. So I say I'm going to do something, I do it. It hasn't worked out all that great because a lot of times people shook my hands and then done the complete opposite. But I'll still stay that way. I just know who not to do business with. And in our community, there's a bunch of people that have just a horrible, horrible reputation. And I would argue that I can't really find anyone who has a legitimate cause for not liking us. Like, we're gonna have haters. People hate the fact that I might go to Mar-a-Lago or I might support certain initiatives, right? Because I don't support people, or definitely not politicians, but I support their initiatives, right? Like, I'll support Doug Collins and his initiatives for veteran affairs because I know him, right? I knew him when he was running for Senate, and I like what he's doing, and I like what Rubio's doing because I know him, and I like what Trump's doing because I agree with a lot of his initiatives, and I think that's where people get upset, right? Where I'm not going to be talking about women's reproductive rights, but I'm sure as shit gonna have an opinion on homeless veterans. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, and we're gonna work together to try to fix this problem through our nonprofit. So I think we're not just a brand that has slogans that mean nothing. Our slogans on our wall about giving back when no one else is looking, to being relentlessly patriotic and helping your fellow man without expecting anything in return, is what makes it so my employees stay there for such a long time, why my fans are so diehard. I mean, we just did a small capital raise just to do, there's only so much I can borrow from banks. Like, I want to open up more stores. I want to, buy more machinery, but eventually I hit my limits. So I'm like, hey, let's do a small capital raise and push it out to our millions of fans and see if we could do, raise some money. Raise like $1 million in 2 weeks from just shooting out email blasts to our fan base. I haven't even pushed it out anywhere else because I don't want to do private equity. I don't want to do people who come in and tell me what to do. Right. I'm going to be up till 4 o'clock in the morning with my team fixing stuff. They're just going to want to scale it for 5 years and sell it off, which is not my intention. Like, this is something that will probably be inherited by my daughters, or employees, or both. And it's going to hopefully live on well past me.
Now, Nine Line is heavily into philanthropy. Could you tell us what all Nine Line supports and what your nonprofits do?
So we have our nonprofit, the Nine Line Foundation, which is originally focused on building wheelchair accessible homes for those who are severely wounded. And we work in conjunction with others. Right? We're 100% volunteers, so there's no paid employees. And the first couple of years, we'd build a house about every 6 months. We'd physically go there and build them with, firefighter volunteers and other people. Transition to homeless veterans. So we built well over 40 tiny homes around the Savannah, Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia area. And now we're working on sustainable farming initiative, where we have an aquaponics center I'm building on my property on my farm to where fish feed plants feed fish. It's completely no pesticides, no herbicides, self-contained ecosystem, which I think is great. And then from a philanthropy standpoint, it will actually produce hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in produce that can be sold off, or it can be donated to homeless camps, right? So the idea is it becomes self-sustaining. So it's this, I could donate $1 million, or I could produce this building for $1 million, and then it starts generating money every year. So it's venture philanthropism is what they call it. And that's why I came out here to meet with the Prince of Austria, who became a pretty decent friend. He's actually a really nice guy. He's got 500 farms he manages in Austria, and they have this amazing system. So I don't know how to farm. I can build the system, and I can build the structure. I'm a decent, engineer, and I can build the websites, but I can't farm. So I came here with some farming buddies as a work vacation to check out their farms, and they're incredible. And so we're going to kind of take their farming practices and initiatives, because their food is so fresh and it's amazing. And I hate fish, right? So like when I say I hate fish, like all fish, and
really?
We sit down, they're like, I hate all fish. So we sit down, they're like, hey, we got this catfish. Like, oh yeah. I'm like looking for the dog I could just feed. And this dude's like Michelin rated freaking chef comes out with fish. And I'm like, okay. I'm sitting there with one of my good friends. He's like, just try it. And I ate it, and I was like, holy cow, like this is what fish tastes like? Like, this is amazing. So they had some incredible process, incredible fish. And we're going to take that knowledge and the specimen that they use, and we're going to bring it to Savannah, Georgia, and hopefully we'll bring it around the country and start building these sustainable farming initiatives to feed homeless veterans. And the idea is the veterans themselves would get trained on aquaponics and they'd get employment. And then they could leave the tiny home and you backfill it with another person, right? Because I can't build as many tiny homes as there are people. So if I got 20 tiny homes and I'm taking like a triage, this is where it pisses people off. Where I'm like, hey, I can't fix all 300 homeless veterans in Savannah, but I'll take the 20 that are able-bodied that don't have, there's certain things they need wraparound services, 24-hour care. That's not a tiny home. Like that's a hospital. But the guys who I get some guys who I've ran into for my unit who just fell in hard times that like it could happen to any of us. Come back from deployment. Wife's found Jody. Now she's with Jody in his house, driving his car. He has no other family. He finds himself drinking, finds himself doing drugs, loses his job, finds himself on the street. Like we're all like that one step away.
I agree.
I've got a good family support network. Not everyone does. So like if you don't, and you find yourself, on the street, a lot of these guys are looking for a hand up. They don't want a hand out. And those are the ones I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the ones who are saying, you owe me, I deserve this. I'm looking for the ones who finally hit rock bottom and said, I don't want to do drugs anymore. And I don't want to live on the street anymore. I'm like, well, fucking perfect. I've got an opportunity for you. I'm going to get you off the street. I'm going to train you. And then when you are able to get a job and get a, full-size house, we're going to backfill you with the next person and then backfill with it. So like that's our initiative. That's what we're starting. We're pretty close to finishing the aquaponics center this year. It's nearly all funded. And I think that's going to be what I'm going to be working with, hopefully with Doug Collins. We've talked about it for years, and trying to, make a program like this around the country. Because my nonprofit, people don't get paid. Like sometimes nonprofits turn into for-profits. And I'm not dogging on any of them because I got a lot of friends in different nonprofits. I still work with a lot of really good ones. Green Beret Foundation. I work with Gary Sneeze Foundation. there's 100 of them I can name off that we all work with, right? Like hundreds and hundreds of foundations over the years. But there's some that are just horrible, right? And the ones that I found the best, are the ones that are willing to work with other people, the ones that are willing to share their secrets and their trades, so they could be implemented in another city, right? And that's what we're trying to do is saying, hey, I don't know if this is perfect. I don't know if it's going to work in your city, but here's the architectural drawings for my tiny home. Here's the playbook for this aquaponics center. Here's how the website could be built. Like, I just want to share all of that open source and say, if you need help, come here. I've had guys, city officials from other cities come and talk with us about, these type of initiatives and how to reduce homelessness. Strangely, California has not called. They've got it figured out. They just need $20 more billion to spend over the next 5 years. Because the first $20 billion they had the last 5 years, it only just increased the population, but all that money went to some nonprofit NGOs that totally didn't squander it. So very facetious, and fuck California. Not Californians, mainly just Gavin Newsom. But
who thought of, or where was the aquaponics idea born? Did you see it somewhere, or did someone bring it to you?
That same idea. Like I'm really tired of just seeing the horrible products that we put into our kids. Like I'm a product of it, right? Like what my father feed me? I came from nothing. We lived in a shitty apartment, and like I got toaster strudels and Pop-Tarts and like Hungry Men was like my main.
Those were bad
meals. Those are very not good. They're
sounds very steak hungry, man. I'm eating quite a bit of those.
You work out a lot, it's fine. I walk around here, I'm like, where are the fat people? Like, oh, you eat right. Like we just feed people crap. So like I really wanted to learn more about those things. I'm more of a city boy, so I'm moving to Georgia, and I'm trying to like learn, these things. And then I came across this aquaponics thing at Georgia Southern. I visited their facility, started talking with their, subject matter experts at the university. And, we came up with this idea of, why don't we train veterans how to do this stuff, right? It's kind of like equine therapy. Like you got to give them a sense of purpose. Like there's nothing more purposeful than waking up and like, hey, you're taking care of the fish. I mean, you're taking that take care of these plants. Like you're cultivating something. Like it starts off with nothing. The next thing you know, you have this, beautiful greenhouse with tomatoes and peppers and lettuce. And, it's like construction, right? I got a sense of purpose of like coming and building things, at the end of the day, like, I built that. Like, that's my sense of accomplishment. So I think if you can get these guys who had obviously the knowledge and skills and the physical fitness at one point to do these things, less the ones that have been severely injured, there's just missing that sense of purpose. I'm sure you have some friends who've, gone down that path and taken their lives just like everyone else. And the number one thing is, it's not that they didn't have a family that loved them. It's not that they didn't, have a skill set. They lost their sense of purpose. The military was their sense of purpose. I'm going to do a hostage rescue. I'm going to go save my friends who are in a tick. I'm going to go do some freaking cool ass shit and kill the world hide and seek champion. Right? Like, that's freaking badass. That's a sense of purpose. And then you leave and you're like, oh, I'm working 9 to 5 at freaking Merrill Lynch. No offense, Bank of America. I'm just saying, like, you lose your sense of purpose. Like, what is my sense of purpose? Moving ones and zeros around? Like, that sucks. So I think they want to give back, in some way, and they want to have that walk away and say, like, I did that, and it's something worthwhile. My opinion. Again, I just talk to therapists. I'm not a therapist.
I think what you're doing is great, and I don't. From my knowledge, there's no one else in this space doing aquaponics for veterans or anything like that. I did quite a bit of research on it after I saw it on your guys' website, last month or fairly recently, and very new concept in the veteran space. So I applaud you for that, for sure, man. That's a great idea.
Well, it's a concept. It's untested, just like everything else. Like, I've got an idea. I think it could do well. Let's see how it goes. I had this idea
I think it'll work.
Putting coffee and apparel together. So I remember talking to Evan Hafer and saying, hey, I'd like to open up, a franchise, first one in Savannah. He's like, sure, man, go nuts. He's like, I'm going to introduce apparel and coffee. Let's see what happens. And I'd say, like, each of our stores do $3-4 million a year, every year for like the last decade. So and I'm not like I'm like off the beaten path in the middle of nowhere. People are coming there. So it seems to be working. It's this idea of, I have an idea that no one else has done. And a lot of times, like, especially all my friends, I joke around, like, they're all my friends, but they just dog you. Like, I remember being like in the unit, like watching movies, and I'll call out Wojo, who's now a command sergeant major in the unit, which is funny. So he's like 85 at the time. He'd be like, what are you doing, sir? Your stupid freaking 9 line thing. I was like, yeah, thanks, Wojo, for all the, it's like, he'd tell me now, because I'll stay at my house. He'd be like, I used to give you a lot of shit. I was like, yeah. He's like, it just motivated me, man. Like, I appreciate it. Because whenever someone says, like, that's stupid, or you can't do it, or like, no one's ever done that before, I'm like, let's see how it works. So I don't know if the aquaponics is going to be a home run. I got faith that I'm going to not stop until it's at least tested and tried. Yep. But it has the potential to really, I think, do great things. And if it does well in Savannah, I'm hoping to share to anyone and everyone else who would like to replicate it and go nuts in your city and see if you can get some dudes off the street.
Once it's up and running, I'd love to cruise down to Savannah and check it out.
Come down to Savannah anytime.
Sounds amazing.
The tiny homes are there. The aquaponics stuff is there, and Connex is. It's no offense, City of Savannah. They're very slow on permitting and allowing me to do stuff. So we're if any city officials are seeing this, I love you to death. But if you could expedite allowing me to finish, that would be great. So I'm hoping to be done by the end of the year.
Good.
And then, with my buddies in Austria, and their systems, I feel like it's going to be, one, it generates some incredible money, right? So there's some for-profit opportunities for people who want to do that. But two, like, just given that give back, I think will be incredible.
I completely agree. So, and I think you're up to some amazing things. Is there anything else you'd like to speak about before I let you get back to your vacation?
No, I think when you tell your employees don't call you during this period of time, you should also just turn off your phone.
Was that the room phone or your cell phone?
I turned off my cell phone, but I gave them my room number at this hotel, and I forgot to disconnect the hotel phone. So apparently there's some type of emergency I've got to go figure out.
Yeah, it might be beers at the pool. One of those emergencies.
Honestly, my guys are good because they'll give me like, here's the 5 Ws, here's my recommended course of actions, ABC. But they know like there's certain thresholds of they have to just get an approval.
Yep.
So I like that. I love the initiatives. But it also goes to show, like, as an entrepreneur, you're never on vacation. As a commander, you're never on vacation. It's awesome that I can still go and travel, but you know, your phone still has to stay on. But I kind of love it, you know, minus the fact that I kick myself because I hate being rude and phones going off. So besides that, I do apologize for, you know, hotel phone going off for a little bit.
Not a problem.
It was a good interview, and you know, hopefully you guys stop by Savannah and you know, check out Nine Line and
we'd love to. And if you're next time you're in Nashville, we're just in Franklin, just south of Nashville, hit us up and come on by. So
Nashville all the time. Winners and losers. All right, cool. It's my best going out, you know, duck line.
All right. Yep.
Favorite spot.
Yeah. Losers is one of my go-to spots as well. And
Steve Ford is one of my good human friends. I was just talking with him earlier. And if anyone's watching this, go to Losers. Best time. Yep. Broadway sucks. And Losers is way better.
That's good gouge right there. Perfect. Yep. All right, Tyler, I appreciate you, brother, and enjoy your vacation, and hopefully you could call those folks back and put out some fires real quick.
All right, man. Have a good day.
All right, brother. Yep, take care.